regarding what happened in New York and New Jersey. These drones, unmanned aircrafts have also flown over my district. A number of constituents have seen them over a power plant in Brooklyn. They were coming over the Verrazano Bridge. And I will remind everyone or explain to everyone here that Verrazano Bridge connects Staten Island and Brooklyn. And on the Staten Island side, you have Fort Wadsworth, which is a U.S. Coast Guard sector New York base. And then in the Brooklyn side, right on the other side of the Verrazano Bridge, you have Fort Hamilton, which is a U.S. Army installation. And
you know, when most people think about the potential harm that these drones could pose to the American public, people think of these drones carrying weapons like missiles or flying into a building or possibly releasing some type of deadly illness, and all of those are a possibility. That's the scary part. Any of that is possible. At this point, I have no reason to believe that any of that is off the table. And if they wanted to do it, who's going to stop it? No one stopped these drones for the last 30-something days. So why would they stop them tomorrow or the next day? So anything is possible. But these drones also pose other threats. Okay? They pose so many different threats. And one thing I've been worried about is them targeting power stations or power plants and plunging, us into darkness. And you might not think, oh, something that, something as minuscule as the power going out is a big deal. It's a very big deal. And now we know that these drones are flying over power plants in New York. Imagine if one of these drones were able to take down the power grid in New York, just plunge New York, or at least large portions of New York, into straight darkness. Do you know the amounts of chaos that would ensue? The loss of life without having to pull a trigger or drop a bomb. You would literally cause so much damage. Not just, damage, with people going crazy and health-wise, but economic damage. Think about how much money would be lost in a single day if all of New York is plunged into darkness. So what I'm saying here is, I'm not saying that would happen, but what I'm saying here is we have to look at possibilities like that one. Because we always think of the more conventional, type of warfare. But these drones simply hacking into power stations, taking down power grids, taking down the subway, different things like that, it could cause so much damage that I don't think a lot of people even think about. A lot of people don't even think about things that far. But that's what we got to start thinking about. Because we can't keep looking at these things as if they're harmless. Because they're not harmlessly flying over our critical infrastructure for no reason. As I've put it in past videos, they're not flying over Dunkin' Donuts and your local bookstore, okay? They're flying over our military sites, our nuclear sites. Now they're flying over power stations in New York, flying over freshwater reservoirs. All very, very, all places and sites that are very critical for our everyday lives. So we got to start taking that into consideration. Just because these things aren't launching missiles doesn't mean that these things aren't causing harm. God knows what they're doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they've already done stuff or if they've already caused damage and we just don't know of it because they haven't reported where this stuff really happens or how it really happens or where this stuff is coming from. So we don't know what these things could have done already. And they may, like our government, may already be aware that certain sites have been hacked or, they've had cyber attacks and stuff like that. That's the type of stuff we have to worry about in 2024 going into 2025. But let's go ahead and roll this clip and then I'll be right back with more.
The drone sightings in her district. Congresswoman, good to have you with us today. I'm curious what you think about Senator Cory Booker's statement there where he says that they pose no known threat. Do we know that? Have you been told that as a member of Congress?
Well, it may be no known threat, but it could still potentially be a threat, and that's what we're trying to figure out right now. I've also reached out to FAA, to Department of Homeland Security, and to the FBI asking for answers, and they are aware of these aircrafts. They're either unmanned aircrafts or drones, and they're still trying to figure out where they're coming from and who's behind them. But following what happened with the Chinese spy balloon, that simply is not enough. We saw how the Biden administration failed to keep our airspace safe. And the fact that a Chinese spy balloon was able to go all across the country without intervention was very problematic, and it was a threat to our national security. And so we demand to know who is behind these aircrafts or drones and what is their intention. And there needs to be restrictions put in place as well.
I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling to figure out why we can't just take one of these out of the sky and investigate it. Do you have an answer for that?
I don't have any answers, and it's because these agencies just simply have not been forthcoming. I'm getting the same response, the cookie-cutter response that you're seeing in the newspaper articles relating to this, and it's just not enough. There were restrictions put in place on certain areas, including Bedminster, that these drones could not fly over. And I'm requesting that the same thing happen in my district, because last night a constituent saw one of these drones hovering over the Verrazano Bridge, which connects Staten Island and Brooklyn, and on one side of that you have the Coast Guard base at Fort Wadsworth, and on the other side of that we have an Army base in Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. And so it is very concerning that they're choosing to fly these things over, as Phil Murphy said, sensitive infrastructure or military installations, and we deserve and demand answers, and we would expect our government agencies to have those answers for elected officials.
100%. I mean, how is it possible? And when you mentioned Bedminster, obviously that's the location of the Trump golf course and club, and they've gone over that area. But so now, are you saying that they're no longer going over that area?
Well, we were told by the FAA that they had put in place flight restrictions above that area and military installation in New Jersey. We're asking for the same to be done in my community, especially over our Coast Guard base, the Verrazano Bridge, as well as the U.S. Army military installation, Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn. But at the end of the day, the public deserves answers, and we need to know what these things are.
I guess the reason I bring that up is if whoever's flying them has the wherewithal to understand that they're not allowed to fly them in these couple of places anymore, and now they're no longer flying them there, obviously, someone has some awareness of where these are coming from or how to get messages to the people. I mean, it's either some sort of hoax, someone, joking around and trying to make everyone talk about this, or it's a foreign government that is doing surveillance. It's, we spend a lot of money on defense. It's mind-boggling that we haven't figured this out by now.
Yeah, and
unbelievable.
And one of my colleagues reached out to me this morning. It's happening in Pennsylvania as well. And the bottom line is these should be intercepted by our government. There's no excuse for what is happening.
Unbelievable. Thank you, Congresswoman Malliotakis. Hopefully the next time we talk, this will be no longer a mystery. Crazy. So. All right.
So from the looks of things right now, these drones operated in New Jersey, obviously collecting some sort of information for over a month. And even though now these drones are starting to fly over New York, and we have early reports of sightings in Pennsylvania, it's like they're still flying over portions of New Jersey as well. But I think that they've collected, within the last month that they've been over New Jersey, you would think that they've collected enough information, which is why you probably are starting to see them branch out. Now, the problem with branching out from one area is now you're involving other law enforcement agencies. Now you're causing even more chaos, ringing an even bigger alarm. And, you're making it more likely for this whole operation to get shut down. But that's not stopping them. They got their fill in New Jersey, and now they've decided to move to New York. And automatically they're going towards areas where there are military bases. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of see what's being targeted here. Because we don't know exactly what's going on, but if you took out all of the other shady stuff that goes on in the world, it's like right now we don't trust our government. We don't trust that we're going to get the truth from them. And we know there's a lot of shady stuff going on. But if you took all of that and you put it to the side, the most obvious answer would be, okay, this is an enemy of the U.S. spying on our military bases, obviously preparing for a possible attack. That's what this is. They're spotting, the placement of our troops, the placement of certain equipment. They're flying over these military sites. They're collecting the information they need. They're probably figuring out, what our missile defense systems are like and different things like that along the coast. And I'm not saying that they're already planning to launch an attack, but I think they're planning on the possibility of launching one if these conflicts get worse, between Russia and NATO and what's going on with China and Taiwan and what have you. Like, I don't think these things are collecting information because they plan on just preemptively launching an attack soon. I think they are collecting information just in case, we are plunged into further conflicts in the future, which it looks like that's what's going to happen. And this is kind of scary because we had to learn out the hard way due to these drones that we are not untouchable. If you could get these drones here, I'm sure you could get a hell of a lot more here. And I mean, just the fact that we got all types of sleeper cells coming across our border, just living here freely. Not even, freely, I guess you could say. We are giving our enemies money to come over here and live. You know what I mean? We got literally enemy sleeper cells from Russia, China, every freaking corner of the earth, the Middle East you could think of, right? They're all here waiting, for something. And hopefully that has nothing to do with these drones. But another day of drone chaos. It's really becoming tiring waking up every day and just seeing that nothing's being done about this. But hopefully, the more we talk about it, the more pressure is applied. And finally, we'll get some answers or something will be done. But for now, let me know your thoughts below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.